Welcome to Dunlap, Tennessee, where there's more to do than you may think. My parents were visiting and wanted to try a place in Dunlap, so I decided we should make a day of it. So our first stop was King Donuts. They do have like breakfast sandwiches and stuff, but we had already eaten breakfast, so we decided to just get some donuts to go. That were also harder to get into than I was expecting. My mom had to open up the box. Anyways, as you can see, they've got all sorts of types of donuts, and they're really good. So next stop is the Coke Ovens Park, which is practically behind the donut shop. This 83-acre park features multiple hiking trails, Coke ovens, and historical replicas. In fact, the Coke Ovens Museum is located inside a replica that was built in the 1980s of the commissary building that used to be on the site for the coal company that was here, and they worked here in the 1900s. Yeah, a good 80 years later they rebuilt this place. Hello, Editing Amanda here. I know you're probably thinking, what are Coke ovens? And no, it's not the Coke that you drink. This Coke is a byproduct of coal. So coal is burned until all that is left is just the carbon, and then it's quickly snuffed out so that it doesn't consume the carbon too. And then that carbon that remains is called Coke. And it's just named that simply because of the process in which they produce Coke is called coking. And Coke became a high-demand key ingredient in turning iron into steel in the late 1800s. Inside the museum, you'll find all sorts of historical artifacts, drawings, and displays. To the right is the Johnson Room, which features regional coal mining history. There's even a motion-activated guy in the back, dressed like a coal miner, that actually gave me a jump scare when he spoke, so watch out for that. To the left is the members' room, which is full of local history from the Sequatchie Valley. The Coke Ovens Park and Museum is kept alive strictly by volunteers and donations. Everything in the museum is here thanks to the generosity of donations from so many different people. In fact, their biggest annual fundraising event, the Bluegrass Festival, is hosted right here in the park. There's also a shrine to David Henry Gray just inside the museum when you first enter. He was a local historian that gave the park the money needed to build the replica building to house the museum after he died. His generous donation really jump-started the preservation of this Coke Oven site and allows the park to educate the public on local and coal mining history even today. Behind the museum, they're currently working on a covered space to host the Bluegrass Festival if it rains. There's other stuff around the property, including other replicas and this old caboose, and of course, the Coke Oven ruins. These are the 1916 ovens. They are the youngest on site and the least used because the company had to shut down soon after due to bankruptcy. There's one that you can even walk through, but please don't climb on the rocks. There's signs all over saying not to, because this is a preservation site to keep the history and to keep you safe. Behind the 1916 Coke Ovens is the amphitheater, where the Bluegrass Festival takes place. There's so much to explore at the Coke Ovens Park and Museum. You could easily spend the entire day here. But we needed to take a break for lunch, so we hopped in the car and drove to the other end of Dunlap into the countryside. We had to visit the popular Cookie Jar Cafe. Aptly named for their large cookie jar collection that decorates the restaurant. It's common for there to be a long wait here, and they have something fun for you to enjoy while you wait. You can visit the farm animals. Basically, it's a petting zoo, and apparently goats and sheep enjoy eating fall leaves. That's what we learned. Oh, and so do the miniature donkeys. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this. after nearly an hour of waiting, it was time for us to eat. Once seated, we were served very quickly. This cuisine is Southern homestyle cooking, think like your meat in three sort of thing. And they also have amazing desserts, like this wedding cupcake. After lunch, we headed back into downtown Dunlap for an afternoon coffee at the Game Shack Cafe. Here you can play retro video games while drinking some great coffee. It's a pretty cool place. Of course, I had to get a seasonal drink, which was the back end, because as you can see, they had Lord of the Rings inspired drinks, and this one is a spiced orange and honey latte. Once we were finished with our coffee, we headed back to the Coke Ovens Park, noting the old coal company's clubhouse on our way in. So that is actually the original house that was not torn down, even though a lot of things were. Here's the Bluegrass Monument, which honors all the musicians who have played here. And here's the old coal washer. We decided to walk all the easy trails that we hadn't had time to explore yet, like over here where we saw the 1906 oven ruins. It was crazy to see some of the ovens with the bricks still intact, fully glazed from the heat, and just above them were trees that had grown over the decades. Definitely interesting to see history like this, and everything being still intact as much as it is for how old it is, like over 100 years old. It's crazy. We then took the railroad trail, which follows the old railroad track bed, and after that, we were done at the park. Hello again from Editing Amanda. I just wanted to pop in here again just to like kind of summarize everything about the park. Like, we did not see everything that the park has to offer. Like, it is huge, 83 acres, you know. There's a lot more hiking trails, including tougher ones that go to like the top of Fredonia Mountain and other historical sites to see. The Trail of Tears goes through here, some of that, and that's like really well preserved too. So there is a lot to see in this park. You could easily spend an entire day just at this park alone. I also wanted to add that I really love the signage in this park. They took really good care to add really detailed trail signs, and then the map that they give you at the museum also has like numbers on it so that you can see where different things are, which is really helpful. Another thing I wanted to mention, because I don't think I explained it very well, is that when the coal company that was there went bankrupt, the company that bought them out went ahead and like tore everything down to resell it, because this was like at the start of the Great Depression. So the commissary, they tore all that down and sold the lumber, and I'm assuming the railroad ties probably had a similar fate, so that's why you don't see like any of this stuff anymore. You just can see like where stuff used to be, but like none of it's there. The only stuff that's really there still, like from the original, is the coal washer and some of like the coke oven ruins. But even some of that is missing because thieves would steal the rocks and stuff from the coke ovens to like build things. So it wasn't until the 1980s, like a good, what, 50 years later, that the historical societies kind of got together and were like, hey, let's preserve this place. So that area was like unprotected until then. At the end of the day, we stopped at the Sequatchie Valley Overlook on Highway 111 on our way back to Chattanooga. This is one of my favorite overlooks, especially for watching the sunset, so if you have the time, I would consider adding this to your Dunlap day trip itinerary. It's also a prime location to spot paragliders who launch nearby at the top of the mountain. And that is it for our day in Dunlap, Tennessee, which sounds really funny to say. If you're familiar with the Chattanooga area, you know firsthand how Dunlap is not like at the top of your list when you think tourism. Like, people are like, Dunlap, what's in Dunlap? Like, there's nothing to do in Dunlap. But I just wanted to prove that there is stuff to do. There are a lot of hidden gems in Dunlap, and yeah, it might not be like a very touristy town, but it's a quaint little countryside town. Sequatchie Valley is like one of my favorites. It's so scenic and beautiful out there. So like, having the overlook, and then just like the cute little downtown with like the coffee shop and stuff. The Cookie Jar Cafe is really cool to check out, and obviously the Coke Ovens is a really cool place. So if you love history, you love beautiful scenery, and you just want to get out on the countryside, highly recommend checking out Dunlap. And for all the details about everything that I mentioned in this video and more will be in my blog post, which is linked below. And I'll see y'all next time.